The duties of the heart. And really what we're trying to go through is I'm trying to get out an introduction. What are the duties of the heart? What is the purpose of the duties of the heart? And what are we doing here? So the first point that we made, that is kind of a radical idea from the Chovos Halevovos, is that the Torah is not enough. I know I keep saying that and like it's expected to get less crazy, but the Torah is not enough. Why? To be the best Jew we can be, we need something more than Torah. Torah is not enough. Why not? Because I'm gonna get very Tanya. I'm gonna use the Tanya and the ideas there, which are in line with the Chovos Halevovos, but they're more explicitly laid out in the Tanya, to explain why the Torah is not enough. And the Chovos Halevovos goes into this itself, okay? Later on. That when we're born, what are we made of? We're made of an animal soul and a godly soul, okay? And we have kind of an intellect that's in the middle of that. We have an intellect, If you've ever done mindfulness, has anybody ever done like mindfulness, like watching your thoughts? If you've ever practiced that, where you kind of breathe and you just kind of let your thoughts go by and you're experiencing your thoughts, you're witnessing your thoughts, you're watching your thoughts, but you aren't your thoughts. Does everybody kind of understand what I'm saying there? Kind of think, like if you just kind of think for a moment, if we just take a minute, just breathe. And if you think of a thought, just let the thought go. You don't have to be that thought. You just see that thought comes. Where did it come from? Where did it go? But you are kind of watching the thought. You're kind of an observer. Your thoughts are kind of spontaneous and they kind of come from nowhere and we kind of are with them. But if we take a step back, we can witness them and we don't have to identify with the thoughts.
Yeah, but I did drugs. That's what.
No. Yeah, okay. It doesn't. It's not just drugs. Drugs maybe can help you extend the experience for longer, but everybody can experience, for a second or for a few seconds, just kind of identifying as the watcher of our thoughts and not the one who's constantly thinking thoughts, but just to break from the thinking, the strain of thinking, and just watch them. So that watcher, that consciousness that we have that can watch our thoughts without being our thoughts, but kind of can observe our thoughts. Like when we're angry about something and we would love to be able to take a break from the strong feelings and thoughts because we know everything's really okay, or we know everything, or this is not their fault. Like to kind of to take that separation from what we're being charged, what our body is charging us with these feelings, and we would love to kind of be above it and kind of watch it without being enmeshed in it. So that higher consciousness, which we can attain very quickly, if only for a brief moment, but we could improve on that. That's our intellect. That's like our intellect that can really choose. But when we're identified with our body, we're identified with our thoughts, and we're just our train of thinking, which is how we are basically 100% of the time, then we are basically our animal. Our animal soul has co-opted us. And that's because we grew up with it as an animal soul. Our godly soul does not really have such an effect on us. It's very much in the subconscious. It's very much in the sub-unconscious, our godly soul. I hate to break the news to you, but our godly soul, that thing that makes Jews different from non-Jews, is very unconscious. It's very, very unconscious. It will give us a it'll give us a hit, if we're really down and out or something like that. It'll maybe poke us with a something with a taser to get us to try to do tshuva, every once in a while if we're lucky. But basically, or maybe if we have a tefillah, if we're in davening and for Shemona Esrei, and we have some amazing, lofty connection that we're like out of our body, something like that. If anybody's had such an experience, good for you. That could be our godly soul kind of awoken. But 99.9% of the time, it's completely unconscious, our godly soul. So what do we have? Our animal soul and our intellect, our poor intellect that is trying to survive. God help it. Because try just separating for our thoughts for 1 minute. It's so hard. Okay? So we're totally overwhelmed by our animal. And our animal soul is, what is its number one objective? To stay alive. It wants to stay alive. It's self-preservation. It wants to stay alive. It wants to be comfort. It wants creature comforts. It wants self-aggrandizement. It wants the best life for itself possible. And bottom line, stay alive. Stay alive, keep going, and get as great as you can, but stay alive. And that's something that it doesn't even know why it wants to, but it's built into its nature to stay alive. It wants to stay alive. Why do you want to stay alive? Just cause. Just cause. There's a pleasure. There's a pleasure of being alive that you would never trade.
Pizza.
As terrible as life can be sometimes, you're at the end of the day you want to still live. Can you explain why? It's just the pleasure of being alive. Pizza. So this is a Kabbalistic. There's Kabbalistic explanations and charts to explain this kind of thing, but this is what the situation is. So now we're a young yid, and we're basically co-opted by our animal, and our animal is looking for the best way to survive. What's the best way to live life? What's the best way to be successful in life? That's our animal soul's job. That's what it's getting from us to do. And it finds the Torah. It's like, oh, this is neat, the Torah. Well, what do we have here? And it'll read the Torah, and it'll say, you know what? If I'm really smart, and I'm really logical, and I'm really on the ball, I'm going to do Torah. I'm going to follow Torah and mitzvahs, because I can make sure that I have, Olam Haba. I can make sure I can save myself. There are all these promises about saving from sickness, and, I'll be on the right side of history, and God will favor me. And, I see the frum Jews. I see that there's a lot more family life that's positive, and there's a focus on good values, and that's all, helping people live and, be, successful. So I'm going to do Torah and mitzvahs. And so basically, I now am a good, full-fledged Torah and mitzvah, God-loving, observant Jew. Why? Because my animal soul has decided to be so. Because my animal soul figured out that that's how it's going to get its best life possible.
Why your animal soul, not your intellect, figuring that out?
Well, it's a combo. It's a combo. But the intellect it's really not. Like, we have to first understand that our intellect doesn't necessarily have its own independence from the animal so often. Like, that's what we were trying. So I was trying to kind of explain, like, take a minute, be the watcher, observe your thoughts, okay? So the animal soul gets our intellect to agree to things. It basically it convinces our intellect that this is right. And if the animal soul doesn't have such a hard job to convince our intellect that Torah and mitzvahs is right, because the Torah lays out why it's good, right? There was a whole Yitzias Mitzrayim, there was a whole, brachas, all the blessings, promises of schar, and the threat of onesh and punishment. So our intellect can be totally convinced that Torah and mitzvahs is the right thing, but it's convinced because our animal soul wants to preserve itself and wants to live. And so this doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world. This person's not going to hell. This person is following Torah and mitzvahs, but they're doing it because Torah and mitzvahs has become a means to an end. They're not doing Torah and mitzvahs because they l'shem shamayim. They're doing it because they want a good life. They're doing it because because we're doing it because we want to get an end. We want an end. We're using it as a means to get to an end. What's the end? Me. My life, my good life. So I'm using it as a means to that. Now we all know that mitoch shelo lishma bo lishma, that we want to come to lishma. We want to come to doing things because it's the right thing to do, because Hashem wants us to do it. We know that that's really the ideal service. The ideal service, the ideal avodas Hashem is to do things because God said so. Not because I get something good out of it, but because God said so. Right? We all agree that that's a higher level to go, to have a pure love, a pure selfless love. That's like to be fully on board inside, that it's not just a self-preservation, but this is really a relationship with God. Because when it's by the animal, then the reason I'm doing everything is because I expect in return. God, I don't really care about you. I really care about me. I don't really care that you like this or don't like this. I really care about securing my future, my parnasa, my health, my nachas, my relationships. That's what I really care about. So it's not really about you, Ribono Shel Olam. It's not really about the purpose of creation. It's about me protecting myself. So that's where the Torah will get us alone. That's why the Torah is not enough. Because we need to get our intellect separate from our body and say, wait, what is going on here? What is really the reality of the world? What is the reality of the world? The reality of the world is that Hashem is one, and I need to understand what that means. But that basically means I don't really understand what is going on. There's a certain ability that I need to understand. I don't understand what's going on, really. I can't understand Hashem at all. I can't understand his essence at all. And so what am I doing things for? I'm doing things for because I realize that Hashem is doing everything. When I realize that Hashem is doing everything, when my intellect can grasp that, separate from the animal, because the animal doesn't want to accept this, because the animal doesn't want to feel out of control. Right? We don't want to feel out of control, right? We don't want to feel out of control. We don't want to feel like our life is not up to us. We don't want to feel like we don't have shlita. We don't want to feel like we are chosar onim. We don't want to feel like we're powerless over our life, or that what happens in our life every single moment is not really up to us. That's a scary feeling. Our animal is like a deer in the headlights with that feeling. We don't like that. But the reality is that that's the truth. God is completely running the show, and I basically have zero control over my health, over my wealth, over every single thing that happens to me, basically. I have very, very little control. And the fact that I woke up this morning, the fact that I have any amount of health or wealth or nachas or anything like that's because Hashem has given it to me every single day anew. And it's completely, I have no entitlement to this goodness, and he could take it away in a second. And so why am I serving from an intellectual point of view? Because why would I not? Hashem is keeping me alive every single minute. And Hashem has given me so much good. He's kept my hands for my whole life, my feet, my clothes. I've never gone hungry. I've never gone without shelter. I've never gone without clothes. I've never gone, Hashem has given me so much. Every single moment, every single goodness has come from him. Every single dollar I've ever made has come from him. He rescued me from every single situation. What am I supposed to do but to serve him? To do what he likes and do what he doesn't like. He told me what he likes and he told me what he doesn't like. I have to know why he likes it and why he doesn't like it. It's none of my business. It's none of my business why he likes it, why he doesn't like it. So I need to take my intellect and I need to separate it from the trappings of my body, which is my self-preservation and self-interest. And I need to realize and accept reality and acknowledge what reality is. And then once I can acknowledge that is actual reality and actually admit it, even if I don't feel it, but to acknowledge that that's reality, then I can start convincing my animal slowly, that this is really what's good for us. That this is actually what's good for us. You think you're using Torah as a means to an end, to get, good relationships and good family life and good nachas and good parnas and good health. You think you really want to excel? You really want to actualize and be the best you can be and have the most success in this world?
Yes, how?
We have to do it l'shem shamayim.
How do we get there, Rabbi?
We have to do it l'shem shamayim. How do we get there? We first have to convince our minds. We have to acknowledge intellectually, which the Torah does not do for us. This is why the Torah is not enough. The Torah doesn't do this for us. We have to come to this on our own, in our mind, separate from the trappings of our animal, because our animal is going to say, oh, get out of this. This is no good, because it means we're out of control. It means we really don't have control of our lives, which is scary, because the whole reason we're doing Torah and mitzvahs is to have control over our lives. If we're honest with ourselves. Right? No? To have a certain amount of control, like I know what Hashem wants, so I'm going to do it so I can kind of, I can play the matrix, No?
No, mostly because my wife demands it.
Okay, and that is what's good for you.
Yes.
So we have to come to our mind, and we have to our mind has to acknowledge what the truth is of reality. And then slowly, we have to speak to our animal soul and convince it that accepting the yoke of heaven in it as for itself, because God has given us so much, because we're indebted to God. Not because we're going to get something good out of it, but because we're indebted to God. But really, this is what's going to get us the best. Really, this is really the best. But I'm telling you this to convince you, but you're not doing it because you're going to get something out of it. You're doing it because you're completely indebted to the Eibishter. He does everything, and that's where we have to go. Now, there's a huge distance between intellectually acknowledging that Hashem is doing everything, that we're so indebted to Him. We realize that everything He's doing is for our good, even if we can't understand, and feeling that. Because we have doubts. We have doubts in our heart. Our heart has doubts. Our heart has major doubts. Maybe this is not good. Maybe I don't know what Hashem is doing. Maybe I could run the world better than Hashem. That's called a doubt. To think that you can run the world better than Hashem, that's called a doubt. So we intellectually need to first acknowledge what the reality is, and then work on our heart and work on our animal to drip down this consciousness, this knowledge, so that our animal, so it can, where do emotions come from? Emotions come from thoughts. Thoughts breed emotions. Thoughts are the parents of emotion. So we are not liable for our emotions in Torah. We already discussed that. We're not liable in halacha. Emotions don't really count that much. Okay, they don't really count that much. Don't covet there's a maisa, right? Don't speak lashon hara. It's not about what's in your heart. It's about what you say, right? You may hate the guy, but if you don't say, "Oh, I'm lending you this," even though you didn't lend me that, as long as those words don't exit your lips, who cares what's in your heart, right? You hate the guy. You're so upset, but you're lending him your lawnmower and you're keeping your mouth shut. You're not over. So you didn't transgress. Low income. So our feelings are not the plane where we do where we are yotzei mitzvahs or transgress averas. It's because our feelings are kind of spontaneous. Our feelings we don't have control over, but we can affect our feelings by thinking proper thoughts. By thinking thoughts and by saying words, letting those words enter our ears and hearing those words, letting our animal hear them, that can birth emotions of love, of trust, of gratitude. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for an inner world of feelings that match our intellectual grasp. and we're not able to hold on and fix this intellectual grasp in our mind for very long because our emotions are so strong. They push that out of our mind. Oh, don't think about that. What are you living in fantasy land? Come on, I gotta make money. I gotta make money. I did this yesterday. What about that? And so my emotions are pushing it out of my mind, where I have to fix it in my mind and continually say these words of truth, of reality, of thoughts, and then be able to affect what's going on, and that will affect what's going on in my heart. Okay?
What breeds thoughts?
What breeds thoughts? Learning the emes. Learning the emes and saying it. Listen, at the end of the day, the Tanya's thesis, we're learning the Chovos Halevovos, but it's very much informed by the Tanya. The Tanya is basically, it all comes down at the end of the day to the actions. What does he mean? What does this mean in this context? I don't know why it works. I don't know why Hashem tells me to do this, but I do it. So if this is what the Chovos Halevovos is telling me to do, speak the words, Hashem, you're kind to me. Hashem, you're doing everything for me. You're running the show. You know what's good for me. Even though things don't look good, you know what's best for me. Even though this is difficult, you're with me. You love me. You're here for me. You know my best. You're really taking care of me. Even if I don't feel that, say the words. Just say it. Just say it. Just do it. Just do the action. Just do the mitzvah. Who cares what you feel? Who cares what you feel like? That's basically the Tanya. Who cares what you feel like? Yes, we need to create those feelings. We want to engender and create and encourage and incubate good feelings and have our insides match our outsides. But until that happens, what do we have to do? We can't wait for the feelings to just be there. We have to just take the actions just because they're right, not because we're getting anything out of it, not because we're smart, because we really understand, because I really feel. No, it doesn't matter.
It's part of submission to tame the beast.
It's like Purim. Adilo yada. Adilo yada. We get drunk on Purim. Adilo yada. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm supposed to know why Arar Haman and Baruch Mordechai. I'm supposed to know why. No. Your mind has been working too much. Okay? So we have to use our mind to realize how limited our mind is. We have to use our mind to realize what's the truth, and then to be able to use our mouth to speak the truth. Use our ears to hear that truth, and then that will go in to our heart. That will affect our heart, and then our heart will affect how we see, and then we'll be able to see the world with Hashem in it. We don't see the world with Hashem in it. We don't. We see death, we see destruction, we see suffering, we wonder, where is Hashem? Where is Hashem? Where is Hashem?
He's in all those things you just mentioned.
Okay. But we don't see it. We don't see it. How are our eyes going to see it? How are our eyes going to see it? You think Hashem's going to just zap our eyes and they're going to see it? Maybe. But maybe what it is needing is that our head needs to realize the truth, speak through our mouth. That goes in our ears. Shema Yisrael, that goes in our ears. That affects our heart. What we hear affects our heart, our understanding, our bina. And then once our heart is there, then we see. The reason we don't see Hashem in the world is because our heart is so doubtful. Our heart is so doubtful. Our heart is totally animal, crustified animal, and it's ossified, crusty.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in order to change our heart, that's when we change our heart, we change how we see. How do we change our heart? By listening to words. How do we listen to words? We say the words. How do we say the words? By thinking them and deciding to say them. Choosing and deciding to say them, even though it may not make sense emotionally. It may not make sense emotionally, intellectually, we have to grasp it. Okay, so this is This is why the Chovos Halevovos says Torah is not enough. Because if we just learn Torah all day, our animal soul would be the ruler, and we would be doing Torah for self-interest basically forever. And so we need
Torah and what? What's the missing link?
the intellect. We need to use our mind. We need to use our mind. We need to identify our mind and use it. And the Chovos Halevovos, even though it's the Chovos Halevovos, the duties of the heart, but we have to be intellectual. We have to use our mind and realize that this is the emes. This is real reality. Can I acknowledge even in my mind that this is the reality? From the Torah alone, I don't have enough to go on. From the Torah alone, my animal is going to have a field day, and I will not necessarily get it enough to move on to this more to this dynamic. So I need to learn about what Achdus Hashem really is. When I learn the secret of Achdus Hashem, when I learn the secret of the unity of God intellectually, that will, even if I don't feel that now, it has to inform how I speak in order to change my heart. We said before that Achdus Hashem is the fundamental principle of Yiddishkeit, right? If you don't hold by the oneness of God, you're not really. That's it. You're kind of blowing it. You know, like you're not really. You know that even conservative, they still hold one God. You know. So it makes sense. That when I plumb the depths of what Achdus Hashem means, or not even plumb the depths, but just realize what fix in my mind, what does it really mean God is one? That should improve my Yiddishkeit. If I shine a light on the fundamental principle of Yiddishkeit, if I shine a light on that, that should improve everything. And that's what the Chovos Halevovos principle is. When we start by shining a light on Achdus Hashem, and we intellectually can acknowledge for more than 1 second what the truth is, then we've got a basis to then be able to speak the truth to ourselves, and get our animal converted, and convert our animal to a full-fledged, partner. Because we spoke about this before in the Rebbe's Torah, in the Lubavitcher Rebbe's Torah, that when we get the animal on board, we're a powerhouse. We're an absolute powerhouse. I mean, that's who we are. We're an animal. We've got this puny little brain, but we have the animal. That's our existence in this world. Like I said, our godly soul is totally in the unconscious. It's totally in the unconscious. But what do we have? We have the ability to verbalize what the godly soul would say. Think about this. The godly soul doesn't inform our lives, basically. It's in the subconscious. But we have a mouth, and we can know what the godly soul would say. We can read a script. We can get a script, what the godly soul would say to our animal, and we can embody the words of our godly soul and speak them, and then hear them. So even though it's not from the godly soul per se, because it's still in the unconscious, my intellect can decide, actually, this is what the godly soul would say, and say it to my animal soul, and co-opt, and transition my animal soul from the driver to the engine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And this probably applies to everybody on this line. At some point in time, we decided to take on Torah mitzvahs. It's a big day in everybody's life. I have a hard time believing that my animal soul was telling me to do that. My animal soul was telling me, you're crazy, this is hard reality, do this, do that. And for everybody, it was a major seismic shift in their life I have to think that was the godly soul talking to us.
I appreciate what you're saying. I definitely appreciate what you're saying. And I also had such a moment in my life as well. So I can relate. And I definitely am not coming to, I mentioned earlier that there are times in our life where our godly soul does give us a zetz and gives us a prodding that can help us, So I guess the point is that I'm saying is that even if our godly soul did give us some extra firepower to overcome difficult obstacles to take on Torah and mitzvahs, at the end of the day, we're not taking on Torah. We took on Torah and mitzvahs because we realized, yes, it was true. And we also realized, well, this is going to be really good for me. This is going to, as hard as it is, I probably said some rationale like, it's like going to the gym, it's hard. You have to challenge yourself, but that's how you build muscles, and that's
for sure.
Yeah.
And we settle into this is getting us the results in life we want. On the other hand, and I look back over the last 30 or 35 years, I see that I'm living so much better a life than I could. I don't think I'd actually be alive if I hadn't done Chovos. And I think most of us would say that on some level.
definitely.
But I hear it's hard to break out of your patterns and your comfort level. So
That's right.
anyway, great. I'm sorry. So thank you for the answer. I think that's I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm not.
What was the answer?
We were blessed. We got a kick in the tush.
That's right.
You just answered. I guess I did.
So, well, the answer, Michael, I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to repeat the question and answered, and you
I got
just
the
give
question.
me you got the question.
Oh.
Say the question.
I think it was my godly soul that got me religious, not my animal soul.
That was a huge momentous decision.
If it's good
Where
for
did
us,
it come from?
and right for us,
Was that
it's your
the
godly
animal
soul.
soul
If not, it's
speaking
the
to us?
Yetzirah.
Right. So I think so. The answer is because some people didn't get the answer. Is that and the question is that even though our animal soul, even though our godly soul may have had some influence in helping us become Torah observant and get over the hump to take on the challenges that are going to be required to go from not religious to religious, from not Torah observant to Torah observant. At the end of the day, our animal soul was also convinced that it is going to get from this. And because our animal soul is really what is dominant and what is a dominant factor in convincing us of thinking certain ways, then and our godly soul is on the whole unconscious.
Why would the animal soul go along with it?
Because you're going to get parnasa, you're going to get good. Because you're going to get olam haba.
I got a lot more money in the old days, and
Yeah, but don't you like values? Don't you want to be happy?
Yeah.
So the animal
again,
soul. Maybe you have a more refined animal soul that knows that it can't eat the money.
Where's the conflict? Where was the conflict when his godly soul said, his godly soul was going like, wow, this Torah is cool. These Torah people are cool. I'm in. And, right away, you could hear the other guy saying, oh, just take it easy.
Don't get so excited about
What are you getting so excited?
Don't get so excited. Don't get so excited.
Yeah, so what about all that?
I don't know.
Because when you want right away everything, your beast become angry, and the wanting become lust.
At the end of the day, we have to live our life.
You want too much sometimes.
At the end of the day, we have to live our life. And so we're going to live our life. It's our animal soul that has always. Okay, let's go back to the being the watcher. Okay, how long can we be the watcher for? How long can we separate from our thoughts and be the watcher? Not so long, right? So basically, we're identified with our animal. Our animal is the one that is on our minds, that is kind of taken our mind to identify it with. I'm my job, I'm my body, I'm my bank account, I'm my family life, I'm my this, I'm my thoughts, I am these things, I'm my car, I'm my to a greater or lesser extent we identify with the ego things that we have and that we do, and we get so angry when somebody challenges one of those things. If I wasn't identified with them, then I wouldn't be so upset if somebody insulted me, right? It just means that I'm identified with it. That's why I get emotionally upset, because somebody insulted something that I'm very connected to. Okay? The godly soul just wants to return to God. It doesn't care. It doesn't get defensive. The godly soul doesn't get defensive at all. The godly soul doesn't get defensive about anything. It has no problem. There's no problem. So if I'm getting excited, like, oh, something's upsetting to me or something like that, can be very much from the animal and everything. Like, okay, I don't want to. I'm not an expert. Okay, on everybody's experience and how to parse the animal versus godly versus this. But I'm basically expressing the issue in broad strokes, okay? Just trying to express the issue in broad strokes, that we are basically, in order to, what the Chovos Halevovos wants us to do is to kind of get our intellect on board so that it can influence our animal soul. In fact, there's a whole section in the Chovos Halevovos in the third gate where there's a dialogue between the intellect and the soul, which is the animal soul. There's a whole dialogue, how to have this dialogue, that your intellect and your animal are kind of like discussing this issue and how to go about this issue. So that's the issue, is that we've never made that distinction.
The seichel and the neshama.
The seichel and the neshama. The neshama is the neshama behamis. That's the neshama. The seichel is this kind of, is the spirit, is the nefesh maskelis, okay, the intellect. So that's why. So that's what I wanted to just come to explain what this further, the kind of this radical idea of the Chovos Halevovos, that we need something beyond the Torah, because if we are left with just the Torah, then we are very, very, very likely to just always use a Torah as a means to the end. We'll always be in the idea, taking schar and onesh. We think that it's, we have to believe in schar va'onesh, okay? But that we have to understand what schar va'onesh is. There's no mitzvah. Okay? We have to believe there's such a thing called schar va'onesh, okay? Just like we have to believe there's something Hashem is one. But am I supposed to understand what Hashem's oneness means? No, I can never understand what Hashem's oneness is.
Why?
But yet I think because the definition of absolute oneness is something that we absolutely have no conception of whatsoever. We're going to talk about that. But that's what the definition of oneness is something that I have absolutely no conception about. All true unity tells me is that it's not plural, it's not existent, and it's not created. But what it is, I have no idea. What God's essence is, I have no idea. I only know that it's not plural, it's not created, and it's not non-existent. That's basically all I know about what God is. Okay? So where did that come from? So knowing that one, so I lost the train.
You said we can never understand oneness, and I asked.
We can never understand oneness. We really can never understand schar va'onesh. We can't understand schar va'onesh. But my animal thinks he's got schar va'onesh down. He's got the idea down. I do this, I get this. I do this, I get this. I do this, I get this. And this makes sense because of this. This makes sense because of this. This because of this. I got the whole thing worked out. I got God's plan all worked out up here. I got it. Okay, that's lunacy. Lunacy. Okay? But we're all victim. We're all victim. So this is why we need to buckle up, and we need to acknowledge, and we need to realize our heart is going to be freaking out Because what do you mean? My whole conception of what everything how can you tell me that I'm not really in control, that I can't really like manipulate the system by doing mitzvahs and like what am I doing anything for? Okay? Oh, okay. This is why people can read the Chovos Halevovos and never make this transition, because our heart is so, it doesn't want to hear what the mind has to say. Okay? So this is where we're at, and I want to pause here. I don't want to go on, but I'm happy to take a question or comment or something. But I'd like to pause here, and basically, so we're going to continue next week by discussing what the oneness of God is, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that in a way that we don't have to get pulled down into the weeds and philosophical conversations and arguments and things like that. But we all have to do this for ourselves. We have to, you can practice this week, okay? This is the practice for this week, if anybody wants. Practice this week taking a minute to not identify with your thoughts. Breathe in, breathe out. Close your eyes and just watch your thoughts. Be the watcher of your thoughts. And just, you're going to get pulled into your thoughts. And then, okay, now take a step back. Maybe it was 10 minutes of being pulled into your thoughts. You're like, I just wasted 10 minutes thinking. Okay, you see how hard it is. Now, come out again. Take a deep breath again and just watch the thoughts. Just try to watch and observe the thoughts. Who is that watching the thought? Who is that watching the thought?
Higher self. Higher self.
What?
The higher self.
Yeah, the intellect. It's the intellect. The intellect is watching those thoughts. The thoughts are our body. It's our body, our neurochemicals, our neuro whatever. It's our body, our ego, our body, our mind. Our mind is our body. We can have a certain amount of awareness that the intellect can get separate. And so let's just focus for this week to try to take a few minutes here and there, whenever we remember, to just, is there a distinction? Can I perceive the distinction between my intellect and my body? And my body is not just my physical gross blood and guts, but it's also my neurochemicals. It's also my emotions and which are just chemicals, and my neurotransmitters and things like that. That's also my mind, my ego. That's my body. Okay? So let me just take a minute throughout the week to try to feel and sense that separation and sense an identity, begin to build an identity of your intellect, which is a watcher, an observer, something that is not pulled into the thoughts, but actually can just sit and watch the thoughts. Okay? All right, everybody on board? Take a minute.
To do that is something nice. When you go outside, you can look at the sky, observe the reality all over you, and then look at the sky and see in your mind how you look from the sky.
Okay.
Imagine.
Again, no. You're using your mind. I'm sorry. You're using your mind. The process here is to stop using our mind, to disconnect from our thinking mind. So here you're like, oh, and think about how to look from the... No. Stop imagining. Stop thinking.
It's not imagining.
Yes, it is. You just said. No, and now look at the sky and think about how the sky is, how God's looking at you.
When you do it, you understand that you connect. That you are spiritual.
Yes. Okay. So again, you think you are spiritual. So it's about not thinking. It's about not thinking. That's what it's about. It's about not thinking. Our intellect is not about thinking thoughts. Our intellect is about observing, is this consciousness that is aware. It's an awareness. It's not the mechanism of thinking. It's an awareness. So we have to just be aware, not to try to imagine and think and, sense something. It's just aware of the thoughts, that I am not the thoughts. Okay? That's the practice. Okay, everybody? Ronnie, you think you could do that? I mean, you do that probably all day long. I mean, you just came back from the ashram. Okay. So I'm not saying all day long. Try for 2 minutes. Try for 2 minutes. Okay? We're good?
I did it when I was 17.
Don't you want to feel like a 17-year-old again?
A question, Rabbi.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't quit practicing Judaism because every time I learn, the more I learn, I feel like how much more I don't know.
That's great.
But everybody else thinks that they're smart and wise, so I'm not getting there. So I'm like giving up.
The reason you shouldn't quit Judaism is because the doing the mitzvahs is always good. Doing the mitzvahs is always good. And the Tanya tells us that even if we do mitzvahs because we did them yesterday, and we did mitzvahs because, I'm gonna, because I want to blend in and everything like that. So all of those mitzvahs eventually will get on the right page. Eventually they'll get on the right page, and then it will redeem all of those mitzvahs. So we need to keep doing them. We just need to think about them less. Because how we're thinking about them is as a means to an end. So that's not so great. I mean, it's a stepping stone. It's a good stepping stone. Okay, a necessary stepping stone.
It's not the destination.
But it's not the destination. Okay. I did.
That's what we were talking about before. Did you get one of these?
So thank you for it.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Shem.
Okay, yes. Okay. And that may be where everyone connects a little bit more viscerally when we get to the Shara Bechina, where we're actually looking to see and identify how God's wisdom is in our lives every single moment, every single second. But we have to first intellectually decide that yes, this is it. This is it. Okay. God bless everybody.
Thank you.